You know how sometimes just one single regulatory change can completely flip a market on its head almost like overnight?
Yeah, it happens. Big shifts from small triggers.
That's exactly the kind of thing we've been looking at today. We're doing a deep dive, really digging into a bunch of sources on, well, the recent pretty significant boom in Germany's medical cannabis market.
Right.
Our mission here really is to cut through the noise, understand what actually changed legally, and see what the data is telling us about the impact.
Makes sense.
And the absolute key starting point, the thing it all seems to hinge on, is this legal change that kicked in April 1st, 2024.
Hmm.
Cannabis got reclassified under German law. Basically, it's not legally considered a narcotic anymore.
That's the pivot point. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's unpack that. What did that reclassification, actually do for people on the ground?
Well, that reclassification was the real catalyst. Before April 1st, getting a prescription, it was often quite complex. You usually needed prior approval from your health insurance.
Ah,
The change meant that qualified doctors could suddenly prescribe medical cannabis directly, straight to qualified patients, without needing that insurance sign-off right at the start.
yeah.
It massively simplified the path to getting access.
And I guess the impact on patients was felt pretty fast, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Things like telemedicine consultations, getting prescriptions that way became much more practical. That helped reduce some costs and, travel barriers for patients.
Right.
And maybe the biggest thing, it's driven a huge shift away from the illicit market.
Hmm. Why is that?
Because legal pharmacy-sold products are now more accessible,
Yeah.
and crucially, they're becoming more competitive on price. Plus, you get, proper quality control. So patients have a genuine, safer alternative.
Okay, but maybe the most striking way to see this impact is just looking at the numbers, right?
Hmm.
What did you find when you looked at the import data after that April change?
Oh, the shift it's stark. Yeah. When you compare Q1 2025 to Q1 2024, medical cannabis imports, they just shot up. We're talking a 457% increase.
Wow, 457%.
Yeah. It's not just growth, that's like explosive.
Okay, just to put some solid figures on that for you listening. Q1 2025, Germany imported 37.223 metric tons. That's compared to just 8.143 metric tons in Q1 2024. Massive jump.
Huge.
And the total imports over the 12 months leading up to that point, it hit 101.9 metric tons.
Exactly. And these import numbers, they tie directly into the sales and patient projections, too.
Right.
Estimated sales for 2024 were hovering around, say, 450 million, but the projections, they leap to 800 million for 2025.
Goodness.
And some forecasts even see the market potentially hitting over €1 billion annually, maybe after 2028. Patient numbers are climbing fast to expected over 300,000 by the end of 2024.
And these are being served through pharmacies.
Yeah, through a growing network. Over 2,500 pharmacies out of Germany's roughly 17,000 are involved now.
So with that kind of, rapid expansion happening, who are the main players emerging in this space? What did the sources say?
Well, you've got a mix, really. There are the big importers and wholesalers names like Cannamedical, Cansativa Group, Aurora Europe pop up. They're handling those huge import volumes we just talked about.
Okay.
Then on the domestic cultivation side, you have companies like DEMECAN. It's mentioned as the only independent German cultivator, which is interesting.
Hmm.
And another big change was getting rid of what was called the BFAM tender system. That shifted the landscape, too.
Oh, wait, the BFARM tender system, what exactly was that, and why does abolishing it matter for who gets involved?
Good question. So BFARM, that's the German Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices. Before they ran this very restricted tender system, only a tiny number of companies got licenses to grow cannabis domestically under really strict quotas.
I see limited supply.
Exactly.
Right.
Getting rid of that system basically opened the door, moving towards a more accessible licensing process for growing cannabis in Germany. It means more players, including maybe branches of big international firms, could potentially start cultivating here, which in theory boosts domestic supply options.
That makes sense. More players, potentially more local supply eventually. But, despite all this growth and the rule changes, the sources still mention there are some bumps in the road, challenges.
Absolutely. And this raises, I think, an important point about the market's, let's say, ongoing maturation challenges. One big hurdle that keeps coming up is health insurance reimbursement.
Still.
Yeah.
Even with the easier prescriptions.
Yeah. While getting the script is simpler, having insurers actually cover the cost, That's not automatic for every patient or every situation. It can still be a major financial barrier for some people.
Right, that makes access still unequal then. And I suppose balancing that huge reliance on imports we saw with trying to actually grow more cannabis in Germany, that's another challenge.
Precisely. Right now, meeting this exploding demand depends heavily on those imports, building up strong domestic cultivation while keeping Germany's very strict pharmaceutical quality standards. That's a real balancing act for the industry. Plus, there's potential now for more research and development within this new legal framework, which also takes time and investment.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all really mean for you, the listener, trying to understand this German market?
Well, I think it means that a single, pretty major legal change, that reclassification of cannabis, acted like a powerful trigger. It set off, genuinely explosive growth in Germany's medical cannabis sector.
Yeah.
The simplified access is clearly driving up patient numbers, and that flows directly into those huge import figures and the really bullish sales projections we talked about.
It really is a clear case study, isn't it?
Right.
How one regulatory move can just transform an industry's dynamics so quickly.
It really is.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Considering how much the market currently leans on imports and those ongoing money hurdles patients face with getting reimbursed, how might the German market look different in a few years? Where will the supply actually come from, and how truly accessible will it become for everyone who needs it? Something to keep an eye on.